Wondering what life is really like on Canada's wild and crazy West Coast? This podcast is all about the people, the places, and Vancouver Island time. Together, we'll explore this island paradise, a combination of ocean, city, and country living. We'll meet the fabulous locals such as the Fudge Fairy and the Chicken Lady, who have chosen Victoria and Vancouver Island as their home. And we'll learn what makes this place unique and special to those who live here. And now, your host of Vancouver Island Time, Jane Johnston.
Hi everybody, it's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun and host of Vancouver Island Time. I'm here with Dawn Large of
Living Large Coaching.
And Dawn and I are going to be talking today about her business as well as the Rockland area. Rockland is really close to downtown Victoria. It's within walking distance to the harbor. It's a beautiful old area of Victoria, and Dawn lives in an amazing building. So tell me a bit about this building actually that you live in, because it's unique.
This building is beside Langham Court Theatre, which I believe used to be very old and well-established homestead, of which neither of us can remember who it was. However, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. Is there used to be in this area artesian spring, and it was called Crystal Waters. And so there's an artesian spring running through this area.
How old's the house?
The house was actually built in the 1870s, and in the 1970s, it was converted into 3 condos.
And you have a lot of, I noticed like when we came in, the brick, so which is unusual in Victoria, and then you have the 70s decor coming up the stairs.
Yes, so you have a little taste of the old and the new. So the brick is original back to the 1870s, and the Langham Court Theatre right beside us was actually the horse stables.
Okay, so tell me a bit about what goes on at Langham Court.
Langham Court Theatre is, I believe, one of, if not the oldest theatre in the city. They do about 6 to 8 productions a year, plus they open it up to the community. So one of the favorite ones we go to is there is a theatre troupe for that is a group of disabled people who write and act a comedy twice a year at Langham Court. So it's with Lifetime Networks is the organization. So that's just a taste of what happens at Langham Court Theatre. Plus, they have a great costume place where you can go and rent a costume or go and buy a costume.
Okay, well, I've actually been there to see a friend of mine who's a singer do a variety show with her friends.
Yes, yeah. So it's a very small, intimate theater that you're very close to the actors on the stage.
So, and I think maybe 75 people fit in there, max?
Yeah, 100, in that ballpark.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about living in Rockland. I'd see I'll take a picture and show you guys, but we're surrounded by beautiful trees, and we're a bit on the rise, and we have a long view here. Do you get a view of the mountains?
We do. We get a view of the mountains, and we have a bit of a glimpse of the strait, and we can oftentimes see the ships going by. So it is gorgeous.
Awesome. So what do you like about living in this neighborhood?
I think the surprise of moving into this neighborhood was what you started off mentioning, is how close we are to downtown. Yet there is no feeling of a downtown here. Yet in 10, 15 minutes, I'm in the core of Victoria.
And what about proximity? Like, can you walk to groceries here, or do you have to drive?
I walk or I ride my bike. So there is, in one direction, there's the Cook Street Village. And if you are on a tight budget, there is no grocery store in Victoria like Oxford Foods. And then the other slight direction is Yates Street Market. And amazing store. Best if you want to buy good meat. I think it's got the best meat market in the city.
And she's not talking about where we're going to be meeting men. We're talking about where we buy meat, right?
Yes. And, it's a wonderful store to go into.
Okay. So you mentioned bicycles. There's a taste for the bicycle community, and the city of Victoria has been working on implementing bike lanes. How bike friendly do you find Victoria?
I find it very bike friendly. I have biked for years and years and years. It's one of my favorite modes of transportation. And the bike lanes for me has made a huge difference in safety, the feeling of safety and separation from the cars. I'm very comfortable biking, so I was okay to bike on the road. But having those bike lanes, I am a total advocate of them. I know a lot of people aren't, but I am.
Well, I do find for driving, actually what it's done is given clarity for when the bike has right of way and when the car has right of way.
Yes, totally. And the way they're linking that up to the Galloping Goose and to the crossing over the Johnson Street Bridge, the old Blue Bridge that is now the new Blue Bridge, and it connects to the ENN railway that they're converting into bike lanes that take us out towards
the West Shore.
You got it.
So, and do you ever get on the bike trails and go up towards Sydney?
Yes, I do. The Galloping Goose. So there is a great kind of a connector point that allows you to head off in either direction. And they are beautiful bike trails. If you like being outdoors, the walking, the hiking, the biking, you cannot beat Victoria.
How long have you lived in Victoria? Were you born here?
I was born here, Royal Jubilee Hospital.
I just want to tell you how unusual that is. Like, I would say maybe 1 in 10 people in Victoria was born here now.
Yeah, could even be lower than that. It is a rarity. So I grew up in the Oak Bay area by Willows Beach. And then when we had young kids, my husband and I, we lived Oak Bay border. And now that the kids aren't home anymore, we've moved to the Rockland area, which we hadn't really planned on it. But believe me, I love it.
Okay, so now that your kids are older, and there will be a lot of people who are thinking of retiring to Victoria, what are there for people to do besides go to the theater here?
Yes. Victoria has, there's so many things you could get involved in. There is the Salt Society, which is the Sail and Life Train in Society down in the Inner Harbor. They have 2 tall ships, and their aim is to develop the up-and-coming generation through sail training. Amazing program. You can volunteer there. Some of the other places to volunteer would be a Mustard Seed is another wonderful place. There's also, we mentioned theater companies. So if you're into the theater or arts, there's a big art community in the city as well. If you move into the Rockland area, there are condominiums here. And some people, when moving into a condominium, are giving up their garden. And that's a big step. And one of the things that I have found out is just up the road is Government House. And they have a very active volunteer gardening program where you get to garden the gardens up there, which are absolutely amazing gardens. Plus, you get to meet a lot of people in Victoria. So it's a natural way to meet people.
That's an awesome idea. They also have gardens up near Vic High, around the Gladstone area. So you can go if you want to garden, and you can volunteer garden or purchase or rent a garden at a communal garden.
Yes, there is. And that's all within walking distance. It's like Rockland is situated smack between the downtown, between Fairfield, between Oak Bay. You know, it's a 35-minute walk. So if you like walking, you can get right into the heart of Oak Bay. And then there's the whole Fernwood area. And then the area where Patisserie Danielle is, that has a name, and I never can quite remember it. But it's kind of Cook Street, North Park area. That's it. Came to me. So there's that whole area. So, and then you swing back into downtown. So it's an ideal location.
What do you find are the demographics of this area? Because I will say that condos in the Rockland area are actually still very affordable, but they're in older buildings, like 1970 buildings, which seems to me when this area kind of took off a bit. But what are the demographics around here? Like, do you find it's young families, or certain areas are gentrifying, and so I'm finding there is a taste, specifically in Victoria, the city of Victoria, for higher density housing now. And they're allowing infill in terms of the garden suites, as well as people putting suites in their homes. So what are you finding?
There is a mixture here. However, I would say that it tends to be a little kind of midlife and retirees predominantly in this area. But you're constantly running into people pushing their baby carriages. So it's not that there are not children in the area.
Okay. So let's talk about fun stuff. What do you do for fun?
I was thinking about this. I do love to bicycle. We do love to walk into downtown and explore it. There's things like the art gallery, the museum, just the downtown core. We love to go to coffee shops. That's kind of popular in Victoria, is going to coffee shops.
What about eating? So brunch is a big thing in Victoria. Do you ever go out for brunch?
Yes, I do go out for brunch. However, I have to say we love having people into our home. But brunch, we love going to Nourish. We also love to go to Picnic 2. There's also Rebar. Those are 3 restaurants that come to mind that we enjoy going to.
So Nourish is in James Bay. So do you bike over there?
We will bike over there. I've walked over there and I've taken the car.
I just find it interesting because I live in the country, so I have to drive everywhere. But I grew up in downtown Toronto, and I remember biking, and it was a bit crazy. And so I didn't own a car actually till I was 29.
Wow. Okay. Yes.
Do you think we're moving towards that?
I'm hoping so. I think with the consideration of what is happening environmentally, that is a very important question to ask yourself, is where do I want to live and how is that going to impact the environment? So my husband and I are a one-car family. A lot of the times the car sits there and we will actively choose to walk downtown or ride our bikes. So yes, it is on our mind, and that is, this location definitely promotes that lifestyle.
There's also a move in Victoria for electric cars. So a lot of people have been purchasing them, and that I noticed Saanich changed their ruling to mandate in new developments that they allow for electric cars to be charged at their stalls. And I think that's going to affect things. Has there been any discussion in your condo building about electric cars?
Not yet. However, again, my husband and I have talked about it because we do, want to choose our next car when we do move to another car, that it will be electric.
Yeah, and I think there's opportunity there. If you're going to upgrade, you might as well upgrade for everybody, right?
Totally. Absolutely. Be thinking down the road of the future people who may be one day living in your home.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of this part. Just tell me about living on Vancouver Island in general. What are things that you recommend people who are visiting here do?
Definitely come to Victoria.
It's very pretty.
It is a really beautiful city, and Victoria is known for its gardens. People take a lot of pride in their yards, and people who live here are very proud of our city. So it definitely is worth seeing, and a fun thing to do is to rent a moped and ride the waterfront. And it is just gorgeous. Takes you along into Oak Bay, through uplands, and up through the university. It's just a gorgeous scooter ride plus fun. Other things to see. There is, heading out to Souk, past Souk, there are some most spectacular West Coast beaches, like
Ella Beach, Sombrio.
you got it, all of those. Plus there's Jordan River, great little coffee shop there. And you can keep on going up to Port Renfrew. Some people call Port Renfrew the new Tofino. And it definitely is expanding and growing. I just went up there with our book club and had a wonderful weekend up there. Other things to do on Vancouver Island. Our family, my husband's side of the family, has roots in Qualicum Beach. And that mid-island area, Qualicum Beach, is an idyllic little town. And it's attached to a beautiful beach. And right nearby is Parksville with their gorgeous beach and Rathtrevor Park. And then you keep on going. And if you like snow skiing, there's Mount Washington. You can head east out towards Tofino and Yakulit. And then if you want to keep going, you can go right to the very top of the island to Cape Scott. So if you're an outdoor person and you love nature, Vancouver Island is a gem.
Yeah, I really feel for me it was the right move when I came here. I just showed up 1995 to teach summer camp, and I just thought I have to live here.
Good choice. Good job.
So anyway, if you want more information about the Rockland area and Vancouver Island, contact me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. But stay tuned because we're going to be back. We're going to be talking about your business and learning about what she's doing on Instagram. It's very interesting. See you soon.
Vancouver Island Time is brought to you by the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun, Victoria, where we bring local expertise and global presence to your property.
Hi, everybody. It's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun and host of Vancouver Island Time. I'm back with Dawn Large of
Living Large Coaching.
I love that name.
Thank you. Well, I had to do it with a last name like Large. Got to weave it in there somehow.
So, first of all, what kind of coaching do you do? How do you differentiate yourself from other coaches in the life coaching area?
Yes, there are so many specialties in coaching now. I like to call myself a personal and professional development coach. And I work with a variety of clients. And so I have clients in the corporate world, and I have clients who are in the performing world, and I have clients that are solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and everything in between. Who I coach is very diverse, but the thread that comes into my coaching is I have developed a real interest in the area of self-efficacy. A lot of people have not heard this word before. And it's used a lot in the medical and the educational world. And
What's the definition of it?
The definition is self-efficacy is your inner belief in your capability to achieve a specific outcome. It's different than self-confidence, which is kind of your inner trust in your ability to do something, or your self-esteem, which is I'm worthy. This is your inner belief that you have the capability to achieve that goal, that dream, that idea that you have.
So it's what drives you.
You have nailed it. It is what drives you. And it's kind of like oxygen. Oxygen is all around us, but we don't see it, and we don't think a lot about it because it's at a perfect level. So we can run, we can dance, we can play. But if you turn the knob down on oxygen, we would become very lethargic and we wouldn't be able to think clearly. Self-efficacy is like that. It permeates everything we do. It permeates how you show up, whether you're going to take on a new job or you're going to step into doing what you've always wanted to do. It is that underlying intangible belief that we don't often think about. And so I set out to find out about it by interviewing over 30 people who are making a difference, who have big responsibilities, are doing those things that we look at and go, wow, wouldn't that be cool if I could do that? And I've asked them, what do they do to strengthen their self-efficacy? Because if you have a strong self-efficacy, you're going to be going, yes, I can. And if your self-efficacy is low, you're going to be going, I don't think I can.
Do you find that it's innate? Like, are people born with it, or can you develop it?
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. Some people just seem to have that ability to say, yeah, I can do that, much easier than others.
For me, whenever I get to that point where I'm looking at somebody and I go, I could do that. And then I go, do I want to do that? But usually if I want to do that, then I just go and do it. But I find a lot of people, there is that doubt that I think it's a lack of self-concept that they're able.
Yes. And there was a little word that slipped in there, doubt. And it seems, and this came up in my interviews, that I said what erodes your self-efficacy is doubt is a big factor. And so can you shift it? Absolutely. There are so many different ways of shifting it. And the cool thing that I discovered is that, and this is what I work with my clients, is between belief, your inner belief, and your outcome, there's that middle area of actionability. It's taking your capabilities and your ability to live in action, or as Brene Brown says, live in the arena. That's where you strengthen your belief and you achieve your outcomes.
So do you find you work mostly with entrepreneurs, or do you find that there's a time in people's lives, what I found just through observation, not study, but that people go through a significant change in their life. Sometimes it's having children. And then after the children grow up and leave, or even after they've been at home with the children, and this goes for men too, is that all of a sudden they go, okay, now I've had time to reflect. Let's make a change.
Yes, absolutely. There are points in our lives that just inherently cause us to be a little more self-reflective. And so I would definitely agree with you on that. And there's other points where, and this can happen anywhere along our lifetime, is we get stuck. And we know where we want to go, and we know that's what we want, but we're stuck and we can't seem to get there. And it's when that stuck point becomes that you finally get to the point of, okay, I'm going to change this, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes so that I can achieve my outcome. That's when the powerful change and acceleration forward happens.
And what do people say they experience at that time? Relief?
I think there is an awareness. There often is a shift in the stories they've been telling themselves. They all of a sudden realize, oh, that story is not serving me, and they create a new story. There's often they're energized because when you're in action, just so many things are happening, in the way you're thinking and the way you're showing up in the world, that it keeps propelling you forwards to where you're wanting to go.
So it's funny you say that, because we've been renovating our basement, and it's been like a battle really to take action. And finally we hired a contractor, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm telling the story, and he says, okay, well, let's just do it. I'm like, I phoned him up the next day and I said, thank you so much, because I realized I needed to change my story around how we were going to move forward and stop whining and just do stuff, stop blaming that things weren't happening, just make them happen, right? And that's a big thing.
That is a huge thing. And that is the power of coaching, because Coaching creates this safe environment where you can just show up and you give yourself permission to reflect and be asked questions by a professional coach that cause you to see things in a different way or a different perspective that then gives you permission to move into action.
Do you find with coaching, some people are intrinsically motivated, others are extrinsically motivated, and maybe they respond differently to coaching? And do you change your approach based on how they are?
Absolutely.
Of course you do.
We, when dealing with people, none of us fit into the same box at all. And, which brings up a point. I have a real interest in self-efficacy, but I also have become certified in the area of the Enneagram, which is a very old type of way of looking at how people look at the world, or how they one way of describing it is if you were to put 9 different glasses on a table, because in the Enneagram, Ennea means 9, gram is like a graph, and what it is this circle, and there's 9 different ways of perceiving or looking at the world. So you put on the glasses, and there'll come a pair of glasses that you put on and you go, yeah, I get it. So it may be that you are an enthusiastic visionary. When you put that glasses on, you go, yeah, there's possibility in everything. Whereas another person who may put on a pair of glasses may look at the world through the needs that need to be met. And we know them. They're those caregivers. They're the ones that walk into a room and they just see what needs to be done. And so I love working with my clients, and one of the ways of working with them is using the Enneagram, because then they have a much deeper understanding on where they're coming from and what motivates them. And once that understanding happens, actually the box that they were in opens up, because they realize there's many different ways of looking at the world.
That's so interesting to me. I do personality profiling and assessments of clients. I've done some training over the years and been studying it for 3.5 years. So it's really interesting to see how people resonate with different people. So, the part of the woohoo crew will tell you it's people's energy, right? Yep. But really what you want to do is you want to talk to people in a way that they want to be spoken to, and so that they'll hear the message most easily.
That is such a good point. And I think how the Enneagram has been powerful for the people I've worked with is they have realized that, this person's coming at it from a very different point. And yes, I can use language and communication styles that they'll understand. And so all of a sudden your ability to develop and community up levels itself.
So how long do you work with your clients for?
It varies. I've had clients who have met with me to do an exploratory session of what coaching with me would be like. So basically I coach them. We have a coaching session together. And that has actually, in that one, it's been exactly what they needed, and I haven't seen them again. And then I have clients that I've worked with for 4 years. So it really varies. Standard is 4 to 6 months. That's the standard length of time that I work with my clients.
So they're overcoming a hump.
They're overcoming a hump.
And so what I find too, do they come back once in a while when they've reached another sticking point?
I have had that happen. And then there's been other ones I've never heard from again. So you get everything.
And who's your ideal client then, like demographically?
My ideal client is someone who has a very clear vision of something that they're wanting to do that is going to have an impact in the community or in the world, and yet they may be stuck or they can't quite see how to get there. And those are my favorite clients to work with. And, all different ages and all different occupations. That part doesn't matter. It's that drive and desire to make a difference in the world.
Okay, so tell me what you're doing with Instagram on Mondays.
Instagram on Mondays, I have what's called a soul vitamin, and it is just 1 minute little vitamin for you to think about and integrate into your life during the week.
Like a pearl of wisdom.
Pearl of wisdom.
And where do you get your motivation for those? Is it through conversations and you sense some message that needs to come out?
Yes, that it has happened that way. It's happened from reading. It's happened even from lessons I've learned or am in the process of learning. So they come from different places. Where I get the idea of what might be a form of encouragement for my audience.
So Brene Brown is one of my favorite authors. She talks about leadership and, making a difference. And what's your favorite thing about Brene? You've mentioned her.
One of my favorite things is I think that self-responsibility. And one of my favorite ways to coach, and I love coaching, is strengthening that self-leadership within. And her quote of living life in the arena, that's where I want all my coaches to be, is living life in the, all my clients to be, is living life in the arena. And then the third thing I love about Brene Brown is her vulnerability, and her counter to shame is being open and being vulnerable. And this is where I am.
Right, because if you're open, there's no shame.
You got it.
Awesome. That's a great note to end on. So tell us how we get in touch with you.
Okay, you can get in touch with me through dawnlarge.com. I do speaking engagements and workshops on self-efficacy, and also I have Instagram. So it's at dawnlarge_. So those are my two ways of getting a hold of me.
Okay, follow her on Instagram. That would be so amazing to get your network nugget on Monday mornings. And if you want information about the Rockland area, contact me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. Take care and have a fabulous day.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We hope you have had some insight into West Coast living. If you know of someone or some place that should be highlighted in our podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Please go to VancouverIslandTime.com and click on our Connect button. See you next week on Vancouver Island Time with Jane Johnston.